What is going on, all you wonderful A-plusers out there? It is I, Stuart, here once again with another review. This time, of course, I'm going to be talking about That 90s Show, which is the sequel spin-off of That 70s Show, one of my all-time favorite sitcoms ever. And ever since the show was announced, I have just been absolutely stoked and excited to see, where some of the characters that we loved from the original show are now. I was really excited to get introduced to some of these new characters, and then just, that have that overall feel of the 90s, which personally for me, I didn't spend that much time in. I was born in 95, so maybe 5 years of my life in the 90s, and I can't really quite say that I remember it that well. I remember the cartoons I grew up with in the 90s for sure, but when it comes to 90s culture, that stuff is all a blur. Man, I can't say why, but I just feel like something is missing right now. I feel like I shouldn't be reviewing the show the way I am, and I can't quite figure out what it is that's missing. Give me 1 minute, guys. I'll be right back, and then I'll have a solid review for you guys ready to go. Okay, now I feel ready to talk about the show. So that 90 show is a spin-off, like I said, of That 70 Show, taking place 20 years after the ending of That 70 Show, or not necessarily 20 years, really more like 15 years, because That 70 Show ended with it being 1980, which of course there was that spin-off show, That 80 Show, which I saw the first episode of, and it was so terrible I never bothered watching anything past that. But we got That 90 Show, which takes place in 1995, the year I was born. So that's it's pretty rad, That's pretty rad. So this show focuses on Eric and Donna's new kid, Leia, who is the new protagonist of the show. Of course, Red and Kitty are the only cast members from the previous seasons, from the previous show, I should say, that have returned as series regulars, whereas a lot of the other characters, while they're in this spin-off show, they're really there for kind of just either cameo appearances or one-off episodes. Most of them are there, they usually give them something really funny to do, but they also don't usually take up too much screen time, because of course we want to get to know our new cast members better. And usually there's a good balance of the two. Usually we don't have them relying too much on the legacy characters. There are, however, some exceptions, I think, because episode 3 in particular, I remember, that was an episode that I couldn't really get behind fully. I thought elements of it were pretty good, but I thought, for the most part, the subplot that involved Leia trying to have her first kiss was just so terribly written. It felt like something out of a Nickelodeon sitcom, and not in a good way. And unfortunately, in that episode, the best side plot revolved around Fez, and I ended up being way more invested in his storyline than I ended up being in Leia's storyline. So, times like that is one of the few exceptions where I feel like the legacy characters get a little too much shine, but I feel like that's more in whoever wrote the side plot of the episode, or I guess the main plot of the episode, because I feel like if that plot was better written, then they could have had both side plots going on, and it would have been just fine. I keep saying side plots, but what I really mean are A and B plots, like you get in every sitcom. But that said, so Leia's not the only new character that we get in this. So we get a full new cast of characters, and a lot of people who have been reviewing the show keep saying that each character is really just a stand-in for another character that was in That 70 Show, and that's true to an extent, but I don't want people assuming that means every character that we see is a carbon copy of the characters that came before them. They are definitely their own character, while they have aspects of characters from That 70 Show within this new spin-off show. I definitely wouldn't say that they are a straight-up rip-off or anything like that. So for example, you have Leia's best friend Gwen, who now lives where Donna used to live, and she's kind of an obvious stand-in for Hyde, but she is also very different from Hyde. So even though kind of like the elements are there to kind of like show like similarities between the two of them, she's definitely like her own original character, and therefore, yeah, it never felt like they were just straight up ripping it off. You also have her brother, who is very similar to Kelso, but if Kelso was a jock, you then have his best friend Jay, who is actually the son of Kelso and Jackie. So those who didn't like the fact that Jackie and Fez ended up together in that 70s show are going to be happy to know that Jackie and Kelso got back together and had a kid named Jay. And again, kind of like I wouldn't even really say he feels like another, like it almost feels like they took like Kelso's character, combined Kelso with Jackie, and then divided them in two, and then you got Jay, which is literally what happens, because that's where kids come from. So what I'm trying to say is that Jay is actually he really does feel like the son of Jackie and Kelso. And I think that the way they wrote his character was pretty well done. And then we also have the girlfriend of the brother of Gwen. Yeah, sorry, I should have probably had the names written down somewhere, but I didn't, and I don't know why, but there just seems to be some cloud of smoke or something clouding my memory about the names. But yeah, specifically the couple in the show are the names that I totally forget, so I apologize. But then we get my favorite new character in the show, Ozzy, who is definitely like the stand-in for Fez, but he also has the sarcasm of Eric, and I think that's just such a great combo. Very much a person that likes to conceal a lot of his emotions, and I even love like one line he gives where he says, "I don't like talking about my emotions because then I have to hear it from other people." What I love about his character is that he's almost like kind of full of himself, but in a very self-aware kind of way. Like it's obviously like an act, and he wants people to an extent to know that it's an act, but at the same time, he plays it really well, and he never is like mean-spirited about it, Leia, on the other hand, being the daughter of Eric and Donna, you would normally kind of expect like a balance of the two with her character, kind of similar to how you have with Michael Kelso and Jackie with the character Jay. However, I would definitely say there's a lot more Eric and Leia than there is Donna, but that's not to say that little bits of Donna don't like appear here and there within her character. I mean, for one thing, her falling for Kelso, I mean, come on, that's something that Donna does like straight off in the show. Like I think like after she and Eric break up in like season 4 or 5 or something like that. I can't remember when specific episodes took place when. It's been way too long. But that being said, yeah, so we have these 6 characters. Most of them, get into these situations that are very similar to the characters of that 70s show. For example, the very first episode ends up, the characters end up with a keg of beer, but they don't have a tap to open it. So very reminiscent of an episode where literally the exact same thing happened, where Eric and Donna happen to find a keg of beer in the road, and they have themselves a kegger, but they don't have a tap to open the keg. Same exact thing. And I even love how in that episode they make a joke about it, how this is a struggle that their parents probably had back in the day, which is, as we know, as that 70s show fans, is very accurate. Of course, I gotta talk about Red and Kitty and how they are the best parents in any sitcom ever. I will fight anyone to the death if they disagree with me on that. They are, the same characters we got from that 70s show. May have learned 2 things in between seasons, or in between shows, I guess you could say, in between the 2 decades. But for the most part, the core aspects of their characters are intact, and they just steal the show most of the time. And it's not because the other characters aren't good. Like I said, I do really like our new characters. It's just that Red and Kitty have been doing this for so long, and they're just so comfortable in their characters, while as the new actors and, even the writers to an extent are still trying to figure things out as they're going. Red and Kitty have the formula down. And and I'm not sure if any of the writers of that 70s show were working on that 90s show, but regardless of whether or not they worked on that 70s show, you can tell that these writers know Red and Kitty. And even if the writers don't, you can tell that the actors that play them really know the characters, because they feel, like I said, they feel just like the exact same characters from that 70s show. And I was ready to nitpick at something like, for one of them to do something that would make me go, ooh, that seems very out of character for them. But no, they are the same characters from that 70s show, just, slightly more mature and seasoned, if you will. The other thing I kind of want to talk about this before I wrap things up is, even though I do like the show for the most part, there are definitely a few drawbacks. Most of it just comes from it being a first season of a TV show, so you always kind of have the writers trying to find their footing, same with the actors trying to really figure out like what their characters are. And this is partially why I really hope the show gets renewed, because I do think that there's a lot of room for growth, not just with the characters, but the actors playing them. And then, of course, the writing team as well. These are a group of characters that, because they're younger than the characters were when they started in that 70s show, there's the potential to see them grow even more than we had in that 70s show. And it's another reason why I really want to see the show continue, because I really want to see these characters like kind of grow as time goes by, and see, how the characters grow along with the actors as well. The other one nitpick I do have, and I say nitpick, but this bothered me a lot more than it probably should have. A lot of the production when it comes to the sets were really bad, not because they looked cheap or anything, but because nothing really looked like it was in the 90s unless they were inside someone's house. Like, obviously, the interior of the basement, very much felt 90s with the posters that were being hung up and things like that. The interior of the kids' rooms felt very 90s and all that kind of stuff. But then you get, like, scenes that take place at a mall, you get scenes that take place at a Blockbuster, and it's impossible not to notice that the product placement in the background is the modern labels of those products. So, in other words, Sour Patch Kids, the generic brand popcorn that they use, M&M's, all those. It's literally the same, like, kind of the same logos and everything that you would see, the same design basically that you would see if you were shopping for them today. They don't bother. There's just this weird laziness with the production where they don't try to make anything look like it's from the 90s. And I'm not trying to say that I was expecting this to have a high, huge budget or anything, that every set design was going to have a huge attention to details. But these things are very much in focus on the camera. Like, the camera wants you to see these things because they are, like I said, product placements. And I don't know if this is because, maybe the products that they're advertising, maybe they had a contract that they weren't allowed to change anything about the likeness of them, like if it was something like that. But if that's the case, that's really, really lame. And it's kind of like, it gets distracting after a while. Like, let's just say that. I know it shouldn't, because it doesn't interfere with the writing of the show. I still think the writing is just, fine as it is. But it's really hard to immerse myself in the 90s when I'm looking at a box of M&Ms in the background, and it looks exactly like the box of M&Ms that I could literally pick up down the street. Doing the same old thing I did last week. That line was not planned, but I'm glad it came up. But all that being said, so nitpicks aside, while this show does have a lot of growing room to be had later on, I did find it very enjoyable, and I definitely recommend it to anyone who is a That 70s Show fan. And I have seen people, again, trying to compare this show to That 70s Show's later seasons when the show really found its footing. But keep in mind, this show is only 10 episodes long, so it doesn't have as much time to really kind of flesh out its characters like That 70s Show did for every season of That 70s Show, being 22 episodes. So they don't have as many episodes to flesh things out, and there's still a little bit of growing pain there. But I think the potential is there. I really like our new cast of characters, and I'm really excited to see where they go in the future. And like I said, if you like That 70s Show, I'm pretty sure you're going to like That 90s Show. But, at the end of the day, guys, these are just my A+ opinions. We here at A+ Opinions want to know what you guys think. So definitely let me know your thoughts of That 90s Show in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. But of course, guys, above all, don't forget to keep it A+. And I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.